Hey friends, Krista Lindquist here with the amazing Suzanne Scheldroup. Krista, I am author of my memoir, The Daisy Diaries, so an intuitive guide and yoga life coach. If you've read the story, you know all about this amazing woman next to me right here. And you may not know her adorable little pup, Finley, who decided to join us for this video. What a sweet little boy. But I've been so excited to finally get this woman to sit down with me and record just to share our experience. This woman has been one of the major pillars of support and encouragement through my life. And if you've read the Daisy Diaries, you know all about that already. And I just wanted to bring her and gather her here so we can share a little bit more, a little deeper snapshot, right, of the experiences in the Daisy Diaries. So again, this is Suzanne Scheldroup. She's a licensed therapist that I was so blessed to have her brought into my life at the age of 17, right as I was going through some of the most dramatic moments in my life. And if it were not for this woman, I'm not sure that I would be here today, certainly not doing what I'm doing today. But I want to rewind, go back to the beginning, and ask you, Suzanne, what was your first impression of meeting me back in the day? So this was 2006. In the fall time. I'm 17 years old, a senior in high school, going through what wasn't even like the peak of the tragedies of my life.
So my first impression of Krista was she was a girl that presented for treatment and she had something tragic happen to her. But my first impression of her, without knowing that, was this is a girl that had been blessed with many things, but she was all of a sudden thrown into a tragedy, and how was she going to come through this because she was gifted and blessed? And I feel blessed. I say blessed in the way that she presented herself, obviously her looks and brains, but it was so far from what you would think would happen to someone like Krista. So I saw something in her. I started to think of how I was going to pull it out of her, because right away I knew she was a blessed girl, to be honest.
Right, with a tough shell to crack. I mean, I know I described in the Daisy Diaries what our first session was like, and I know, right, you laughed because you know how much resistance I had at the time. I mean, I was 17 years old, so depressed and ashamed of talking about what was going on in my life. Yeah. And I thought, going into this, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to talk to this woman about what's really going on in my mind. And it still blows my mind how you were able, you were patient with me.
Oh, very.
I think that was the number one thing. You were patient. You didn't push. You didn't try to force answers out of me. But your presence alone, I mean, can you feel it? Just we're in her office. I mean, this is where, oh my gosh, this is just a healing
We spent a lot of time here.
We spent a lot of time in here, and my daughter, Jalen, too. And, just your presence, eventually, your energy alone, I think, broke me down, right? Where I knew, and I think I knew it on some level when we first met, that
sense my non-judgment.
I think I can trust this woman, but I don't trust anyone, not even myself right now. So I kept that guard up, but it came down because I knew, this is a woman who is really listening. And you blew me away by how well you seemed to know who I was underneath it all, at a time that I really didn't know myself.
Well, I'm quite intuitive. Everyone is if they tap into it, but the more you listen to it, more it grows. And I definitely knew that she had been through this tragedy. Krista had been through the tragedy and was not wanting to be in counseling. She was very shut down. Still, probably part of the trauma was in her eyes, where she looked forward. But see, knowing my purpose and my goal with her as a counselor, and meeting her I knew what I was doing, and I knew how I felt. And then I was going to continue being me, at the same time knowing in a way that it was going to match what you needed, which was patience, compassion, to persevere with you, to help you persevere. And I think it was a good match, because I was not going to somehow get into a relationship with you, because I knew I could help you, and I knew you needed help.
Right. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I can't thank you enough for being that patient with me and never giving up on me. and following me through it all. I mean, that was 16 years ago that we first met. And now here we sit today. Now I just love coming, anytime we have a chance to come and see you, and how amazing it's been to like essentially raise my daughter in your office and teach my daughter, the importance of talking about your feelings, about being open,
that hasn't
being
necessarily been
expressing
right, because she's
yourself.
a quiet, artistic type.
She is.
Very loving and a light in her. But knowing how to gauge her too with a mother like this, as she's growing up and having more hesitancy, and as Krista's self-confidence is growing and her knowledge of who she is, which I saw again initially. The parenting of that without, and allowing her to still go through the stages she needed, but mother knew more, but we didn't need to focus on that, just on who she was and help that blossom, just like I felt we needed to release you to help you blossom. But another thing I thought initially going back, you had something quite tragic happen. From what I was given is that you were going to Lake Superior with a friend to meet your boyfriend, and what you came upon was a flight for life helicopter and a circle of people, and this was going to immediately affect you forever. And what must have happened to you when you saw that? Because again, at this point with that boy, it looked like you were having this ideal relationship, but nothing is as simple as it looks. But what were you going to do with that? And then there was other things that happened. But you've grown from the very beginning, first starting to be willing to sit. And I was not even aware that it was as difficult on you as it was, in the sense I'm not going to talk to her. I saw that in your face. And I used to stare you back, looking and thinking.
Oh, I remember those stares.
Put down the resistance.
This deep soul stare through those eyes. Oh my gosh, I couldn't handle it sometimes, and I'd be like, look away, like she can see into my soul right now. I know it.
Well, again, it was just maybe a relation that was meant to be for both of us, for me to learn from you also. But it's been an interesting journey for the both of us. Again, people would maybe assume that you have it all because of the presentation, but what you went through and what that revealed while dealing with that was pretty deep, and a lot of heartbreak. I also sensed the heartbreak. You can have heartbreak about your client's heartbreak, but I knew also that I was going to be able to help her out of that.
Right. And one of the most profound things that you said, I think is worded in the book too, that you reminded me, don't be so hard on my Krista. And we were just talking about that before we started hitting record. What was the major thing that you really helped me with was to stop being so hard on myself.
At that point, you were not in good hands.
Right.
Because I could feel that there was so much judgment that you brought with you that wasn't necessarily yours, that was placed on you, and you didn't know what else to do but take it. But it was very hard to see you come in and then even leave after working, because I knew that you had to be in good hands, because you needed to be treated with compassion and softness, having to do with some of the background which people have read. I just thought you need to realize that you fill another space with other people, that you fill with them, and that not only should you love yourself, which isn't always easy, but that there's a lot of people who love you, and you're a precious package. So you needed to know, if you're not feeling the love towards self, I was feeling love towards that self, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right, and feeling that from you, and it was always so genuine, and I love that you always reminded me too, like, Krista, if you were doing something wrong here, I would tell you. You're always like, you'd call me out on my crap.
I called you on a lot of things.
Which is a lot of just like self-doubt and criticism.
Well, you'd sit there thinking, I'm not ready to answer that too. Yeah.
And even, so even like flashing forward a bit, like through the whole journey, because this has been 16 years of guidance. Yeah. And so in the beginning, breaking down those walls, and then even after, getting past the tragedies of the end of high school, and then stepping on, then Jalen coming and stepping into college. Yes. And it's like, you definitely helped boost me into climbing, like
maybe
dragging myself out of the darkness, feeling capable. Yes. But at the same time, that being hard on myself still carried with me for a while. It's like I was trying to prove
very hard on yourself
for a long time. And that was where it was the most impactful, because I was go, go, go. I'm going to go be an engineer. I'm going to do all these things and conquer all the world and make all this money and support my daughter. But on the inside, so yeah, on the outside, I love how you said, oh, look at this package. It seems like she acts like it's all good. But you could see deeper than
Well,
that.
just with the depth of the tragedy when you came in,
yeah.
your reaction to it, and how drastically your life changed, and how drastically you were going to be perceived, and with Jake too.
Right.
And when you came upon, and I remember the battle you had as far as your obligation or your duty to be with him and stay with him. It was very hard on you to even think that question came up, and how you handled that with him was beautiful through honesty. But it was very difficult to know that you had to do that. But
and
you did it.
Even just hearing you say and like how you handled that was beautiful. I mean, it's comments like that you've made over the years. Because I would think and like can still look back and be like, that looked like a pretty ugly mess to me. I mean, and for anybody that's read the book,
you
like,
were aware
of wild ride.
What you felt was an ugly mess inside of you. I was just looking
true.
at a person in the time and space they were here, and what had happened to this person. And within your own self, you were probably thinking, well, of course this is happening, or I deserve this, or who knows what you were thinking. But I could see right away, I wanted to help you in how you handled it.
And you, oh my gosh, you did in so many ways. To keep reminding me, perhaps even just giving me permission to be human. And to feel the feels. Gosh, I still remember. Right. I mean, you have these sheets in here with the spaces and the feelings, and we started busting that out. With Jalen when she was younger, and man, just giving you permission to feel all of those emotions and like to validate.
That's right.
To validate, feeling these shitty feelings. I'm like, oh, it's okay that I do. It's not the end of the world. And man, I would walk out of this office so many times like, all right, that was the boost I needed. Then I started coming here to recharge my batteries. And then I still, through my 20s, definitely what left here and would exhaust my batteries and burn out quickly. But then come back here and you would, like this presence, just breathe.
And not surprised at where you were headed.
Yes.
And what you were doing.
Every time I told you, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go to school here. I'm going to get this job. I'm going to leave this job. I'm going to take this crazy chance. And like, you would just look at me and sometimes laugh and be like, of course you are.
Right. Yeah, of course. Because
you're a rocket.
You were also a person that was able to back your word, walk your talk. I knew that because despite some of the behaviors in high school, which is something very typical, you were very bright and cheerleading and this kind of idealist life. At the same time, people would never know that there was this discussion within yourself that was not positive.
Oh, for sure.
Not believing,
And that's an interesting thing to talk about too, because I grew up dancing and cheerleading too, and I'm reflecting on that now, realizing, I'm being in front of a crowd and, being, on this stage or whatever in this group of pretty girls, and like how much like keeping that image that persona, right? But really on the inside, there's a lot of dark stuff happening. I'm so depressed. I mean, I was talking about, like in my mind I don't even know when I talked to you about that over having that suicide idea and plan. And it probably wasn't until after Jalen was born and after that moment passed, it returned at one point too. And I remember talking to you about that again later on. And even in those moments, again, it took a while to allow myself to say some of those things outside. You're right. I was so used to living this persona that, God forbid, can I tell anybody I'm that depressed? Because they'd just be so shocked.
Well, they'd be shocked and also look at you like, well, how could you be?
Yes.
But they didn't know the voices that were in your head about yourself, and they didn't know where some of those voices started from, which was parent. It was a kind of a conflict with you and your mother, a very loving, spiritual Christian woman, but also who probably thought, oh Lord, what am I going to do with her? So that even when I met you, because of my own background and owning my behaviors, it was like, I know what to do with you. You know, and which was to support who you were and who you were going to become. But then you would battle. So it was almost like I was battling you internally with this voice that would be so hard on yourself. I don't think anyone can imagine how hard Krista's been on herself, looking at her now.
And it makes me wonder too, how, I know I'm not alone.
Yeah.
How many people are out there that have all of that inner self-doubt and
Oh, yes.
judgment and darkness going on inside, but on the outside seems so perfectly
Yes.
happy to
Yes.
have it together.
Yes.
And how beautiful, and I hope that we can share and promote this,
Yes.
idea to express yourself, and it's okay to share the dark parts of our story and
Everyone's
the dark
got
parts
strengths
of our
and
thoughts,
weaknesses. Yeah.
and to give ourselves permission to go there, to feel it, to talk about it, to set ourselves free from it. And I wouldn't be so passionate about doing it now if I didn't experience, how profound it was being able to do that in your presence.
Well, and
all the work that I do now is so greatly inspired by.
Thank you.
You.
But you also,
are.
maybe I helped water the seed, but I think it was there.
Oh
and
I
see that. I mean, the growth that you've made because you decided to not consistently listen to that voice. And sometimes it's a battle because I don't think how great you knew you would be. And I mean great in the sense of having, being a role model and inspiration. That's a responsibility. And now you're clearly much more at one with yourself and not betraying yourself and realizing your aspirations and living your truth.
I was just going to ask, now that we're here 16 years later, what are, the major transformations you've seen? And you just started seeing, that you just started saying just now too.
Well, coming to meet you and realizing the tragedy, but also how your life and your feelings about that were going to come into play, that they were shut down. And then it kind of immediately went into believing the bad press about yourself, even to your mother or to that you were partying your lifestyle. Really what we were doing is normal adolescent stuff, expanding. And because you were so intelligent and so serious and sensitive, it takes you longer to pull yourself out of those beliefs. And then I see the courage and the risks you took. You continue to take risks. And I believe now, later on, you're much more successful because you found out that you can handle the risk, the good and the bad, that actually you've been on an adventure for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So the transformation was more belief in yourself, more connection with others, where you actually have been able to successfully help many people. And you're an inspiration. And as I share that with people that I know in your book, it's been already happening. And so the change is to diminish the voices that weren't helping and improve or help you believe in who you are and what I saw you to be, who you were meant to be.
Right.
And you've continued that on your own.
And I don't know if I would have the courage to make a lot of the, daring leaps and changes that I have in my life if it weren't for you. Like, being able to, you're like my sounding board, and each time these decisions were coming up, I talked to you about every single one of them, and just, you helped kind of dissolve the fears that I had around them. The voices of other people in my mind judging of like, well, you shouldn't do that. You're gonna do what?
Going to Michigan Tech and becoming an engineer as a woman and getting a job in the corporate field as you did and traveling internationally, and you think people know that, what you had done. And then you questioning, is this really where you're happy? And me thinking that's what's most important. But you did go there to learn a foundation, so sometimes you do have to pay your dues like that. And then to make the decision later that you have other stuff in you that could be grown, which is, you're the engineer, but also very spiritual, intuitive guy.
You reminded me of that a lot. That's triggering so many memories of you, like in this office talking about, like, do you realize, you're left-handed and the left and right brains, and you've got this engineering side and this creative side, and like, do you see how beautiful all of this is?
Right.
And
that's the blessed part again, right?
Blew my mind because I didn't see it. I didn't realize it. And it's like you had to keep reminding me too.
To
really hammer it in, like drive this one home and
remind you that the way you thought and spoke too did not bring good energy to you. And it was not going to define the life you were deserving of and really wanting, because you were not going down a good path with overthinking. You were an overthinker.
Oh, absolutely.
And now I see the flow much easier come from you, and spontaneity and the joy and the life you have. You've reclaimed yourself.
Absolutely.
And you made yourself who you are. A self-made woman.
To you. And that's why now, and I have been since, we really did get close of like, wow, everyone should have a therapist. Like, I wish everyone had a Suzanne, really, because I wish I started seeing you sooner, and I think especially every kid every teenager, every adult. I mean, now you're like part of the family. We are so family for sure.
Right,
and there, I mean, I will be keeping you in my life until, the end of time, right?
Yes.
But I can only pray, that anybody out there that's struggling, especially young kids, going through these confusing times, that they are given an opportunity, that they're able to match up, with the right person that can help support them, because this is huge, huge, huge. But now, yeah, this book is out, and of course you're part of it because you were so influential in this path. And I know you just recently read it.
In one night, in one sitting, after a 6-day work week. But I told you today, and it was clear that it was engrossing, and that I was impressed with the words and the thoughts. I knew who you were and what you were capable of, what I've seen, but to be able to read your thoughts about the situations we worked on.
Yeah.
And I thought it was engrossing. And I even said to you, if I didn't feel it was accurate or that I would have told you that. But I was moved to very touched when things were written about me that told me my profession is what I need to be in, because what she received from me is what I want. And again, that's following your true path. And I've also followed my own true path, which only can support others being and doing that. Because look at who Krista is. The growth, and then to become a writer like you are, and to inspire people, which you've already started to do with people I know. So very proud.
And that's I know.
I want her to write more.
Oh, there will be more. There's already more in the works, and you're not off the hook yet either, because you're going to be in more of them too, I'm sure. So
well, what I represent.
Yes,
and what I represent to you,
and just what you've done for me. I feel so honored. The light that you've given me and helped me rekindle and brighten within myself. Now I'm able to pass that on and light other people up.
It's like a light in the tunnel. You have to see the light. Kids come here. You came here because nothing was wrong with you. It was things that had happened to you. That's why children and people come here, is because, to be able to have someone who's going to objectively going to tell them their opinion, but help you become the person you want to be. And that is what you've done and are still doing. And more talents are popping up. Like I said, with this reading, in the writing. It's just amazing. But that's who you're supposed to be. Maybe I saw that at the beginning again, and you were willing to do it. And there's other people who've been support system to you too.
Oh, for sure, yes. I mean, the other mentors along the path, and just such a blessing. And I just love that, of all, and everybody that has entered my life has, isn't it funny how the people that enter your life come in at the perfect time? From you. I mean, we also talked about my best friend Mel, who, has been around since, we were kids.
So good for you, and you're so good for her.
Yes, and having support like that. And then there's Melissa, the Reiki master, and even like Kelly, my daughter's babysitter. I mean, she was another,
there's a
spiritual guide.
When the
and
student's
support.
ready, the teacher comes.
Oh, yes.
And so you've had teachers come.
And different ones at different times. Tara, my business coach. I mean, then my book coach that helped me finish. I mean, such brilliant women have entered my life. The medium that I work with, Sherry, just so amazing. All entering in at the perfect time. And some of them, I haven't seen in a while. They came in for their time, and then we've moved on to other things. But
you also form relationships.
We've always be there. Oh, absolutely. And they will always be with all of them.
Relationships.
And I just love how ours has always been so open and like this family feel. And, now bringing my daughter in the next generation, and helping her step into her truth. I just love that. Again, what you gave to me, I can now pass on to others. And I can't thank you enough.
Thank you. I mean, it gives me fulfillment, and it's not about the ego, and not just saying that. It's about really finding your path in life as you have and I have, and the others who have found their path, and how we all can help each other and come in at certain times, go in and out. But I'm very proud of you, and I have a lot of respect, first and foremost, in who you are, and who you've become, and who you're becoming. It's not over. And it's exciting to see where you're going to go. And again, even with the growth that you've done internally, to stay in one spot where you're going to go in your thoughts and your writing and your ideas and your inspiration and your guide. It's amazing.
I can't thank you enough. I love you so much. And I thank you so much for being here and for sharing your experience with me. And being willing to share this with others. And if you haven't yet read the Daisy Diaries, it is the true story of one woman's My Unusual Journey Through Tragedy, Transformation, and Triumph. You can get it on my website, jraywellness.com. You can get it on Amazon too. It's also available in a Kindle version. And you can learn more all about my experiences with Suzanne here. If you have read it, I'd love to hear from you. Please, leave a comment, send me a message anytime, and let's connect, because the purpose of this book is to start this conversation, right? And to help others. May you read this and find compassion for yourself, or love for yourself, compassion for your story, and inspiration to follow your heart. Find your path. Find your people that help you along your journey. And if you need help doing that, that's what we're here for too. So reach out anytime. Love and light to you, Suzanne. Love and light to all of you. And until next time, take care.